Hello, welcome. I'm Masood Raja, and in this brief video, I will talk about how capital becomes speculative. Now, before I do all this, please do keep in mind that I'm not an economist, and my understanding of economy, especially neoliberalism, is based primarily in my readings. And I had previously recorded a video on how the trickle-down economics doesn't work, and you can watch it up there. And I realized that in the process of explaining that, I didn't really explain well what do I mean by speculative capital and how does it become speculative. So by speculative capitalism, what I meant was capitalistic activity which involves capital and money, but it doesn't create any jobs or it doesn't create any commodities. All you do is make money from money. So either by using the interest rate or by using the exchange rate, foreign currency exchange. So what you can do is you can send your surplus money to Hong Kong, to Japan, and elsewhere, and people buy a dollar, they give you, the Japanese yen, then you buy it back. So in the process, wherever there's a huge difference or even a small difference between the currency rates, you can keep capturing profit simply by exchanging money, right? Buying one currency against the other, and that's where nothing is happening other than a few jobs for people who do that kind of thing. No commodities are being made. And so money has become speculative because it makes money by itself. Now, it's really well explained by, of course, Thomas Piketty in his book, but also Zygmunt Bauman has an interesting statement in his book on globalization where he says, and it's slightly dated, that for every dollar spent in the global market, only $2.50 actually create jobs. Rest is money making money by itself. Okay, so now a little bit about how capitalism, how does it become speculative? So if you look at the actions by the US government in the 1970s, especially by Nixon, what Nixon does is he allows for people with capital to transfer their money free of cost in an instant from one place to another. Free movement of capital is made possible in the mid-70s. Along with that, then General Agreement on Trades and Tariffs, and now the World Trade Organization also encouraged different national economies to open up and to make sure that they let the money come in and do not add any stipulations that if I'm investing $1 billion in Pakistan, Pakistan doesn't have a right any longer to tell me you can bring in your money, but here are the conditions, and here is how long you will keep that money in. Now, there was a sound idea behind it. The idea was that if money could move freely from one country to another without regulation, then if a nation can build, a local market or a local resource where the investors from the world see, oh, we can make money over there, they would transfer their money. But what ended up happening was that since they could move their money freely from one economy to another, right, instead of investing it or going to a more lucrative place to deposit their money or to house their money, they just started floating their money to raise more interest and to capture the higher exchange rate. And that is what I meant by capital being speculative. Now, if you want to see a great example of the failure of this system, that is the 1987 crash of the 6 or 5 great economies in the Far East, right? Malaysia, Indonesia. In 1987, these economies suddenly crashed. Why? Did the people stop working or did they stop innovating? No. It's because there was a rumor something was going on, and so investors pulled their money out. And they could do that. When all that capital left these markets, those economies collapsed, right? Because there was no capital anymore. So IMF went in, and I'll do another one on IMF. and asked these countries to restructure their economy, logically speaking. And what did they say? Raise your interest rates, right? Makes sense. Because if you raise the interest rate, if the capital has run away, it will come back seeking more interest, right? That's what I just talked about. So everyone kind of put those measures in place except for Malaysia, right? Mahathir Mohamad was then the prime minister, and he absolutely refused to do so. And his argument was very simple. He said, my housing market is overstretched. We have issued huge loans for commercial and domestic housing. If we raise the interest rates, our housing market will collapse. And if that collapses, no amount of money coming in will save us. And he was derided and pilloried by the US media and by all the other media. But eventually he was right, because all the other economies took about 20 years to recover. His economy recovered in 10 years. So that was just an aside, but to reiterate, capital becomes speculative when money can move freely from one part of the world to another. Now, some of it is invested in factories and all, that's a separate issue, but most of this money then ends up making money by itself, and that is investors buying other currencies, trading them, or just hopping the higher interest rate. And as a result, not many jobs are created. And that was my point, one of the reasons the trickle-down economics doesn't work. I hope this explains it. If not, please send me a comment and let me know what you think, and I'll try to answer it better. But just, a disclaimer that I am not an economist, right? I am a thinker who thinks social theory, who writes about literature, who's a post-colonialist. Economy is not my specialization. The little that I know that I've shared with you is because of my reading and research on neoliberalism and neoliberal globalization. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Take care of each other. And as always, peace and love.